Are we set to sign a centre-back in this January market? Today, my friends, we have a ton of big updates involving exits, potential recruitment, and a lot more. So you can't afford to miss out on today's big video. Hope you guys enjoy. Hit that like button, show us some love. It's the start of the new year, so good vibes only. Hope you enjoy, and let's get straight into things. Let's start things off by discussing a potential exit first, as we are learning that casadei has said yes to moving to Torino. However, we are not close yet to engineering a transfer. There seems to be a bit of a difference in valuation right now. On our hands, as reported by Damasio, we are hoping to earn around 20 million euros for a sale, and we hope to include a favourable buyback option included in the deal. This is far away from Torino's first official offer so far, which is around £10 million, and that includes a percentage of a future sale clause inserted in the deal. So still a lot of legroom. It's not over just yet, but if anything, Torino's first attempts could now entice other Serie A clubs now to make a move and make something work. But it's big for them that casadei now is open to going to Torino. I guess it makes a lot of sense because reports came out today suggesting that AC Milan are already holding talks with Torino's very talented midfield player in Samuel Ricci, and they're trying to engineer a move for him for next season. So you'd imagine that if you're casadei, you're safeguarding your long-term career going to Torino. They have a habit of selling guys to bigger clubs in the future too, and you're going back to Serie A playing first-team football. That's pretty interesting. So let's see if Torino now come back and increase the offer. They're going to have to, but obviously to end this point, I want us to have a bit of a conversation. I'm hoping that for this segment, you guys can share some of your thoughts and opinions because listen, I'm just a fan. I don't have all the answers. I don't pretend I do, but I've been thinking about our recruitment. And obviously when we signed casadei alongside players like Omari Hutchinson, Carney Chukwuemeka, and we gave Neil Bath, our former youth director, a blank check to sign some of the best talents he thought as we were preparing for this infamous 2030 project at the football club. Now that clearly is a thing of the past right now, and what's interesting is that many of these players that we originally signed now seem to be a thing of the past themselves. Obviously, Omari Hutchinson has been flipped for profit. Casadei is set to leave us. Chukwuemeka, we won around 40 million to sell him, which is kind of outrageous considering he's not even playing at all. I don't understand that valuation whatsoever. But other players like your Sloninas and Tyler Dibbings, who went back to Southampton, Zach Sturges, none of these players are any closer to appearing for us in any type of way. Now you can argue that obviously these were players bought under a different project at the time. Fair enough, but since our directors, of course, have had full control on the market, they've signed players like your Angelos, they've signed players like Andre Santos's, Diego Meira's, Dacho Fofana's, Washington's, Ugo Chukwu's, etc., etc. And again, many of them are still far away from having any significant impact in our squad. And this is where I want to have the conversation now, because as we've seen with players like Omari and Angelo, we flipped them for pretty decent profit. I wouldn't say it's like incredible, but a flip's a flip, profit's profit. And I guess it's a reminder that, this youth investment policy and model isn't that easy when a lot of times you're relying upon these young talents that you're signing, having great loan spells, developing outside your network, outside your club. Yes, we have Strasbourg. Yes, a few players that are showcasing their talents. That's helpful. Ideally, I wish we had maybe another network club in our model if we're really going to ride this youth recruitment strategy all the way, because in actual reality, most of the times you end up having to sell one of these guys in the following season. It's impossible to get the best optimum deals and situations for all these talents that you buy, especially when there's no clear pathways in your first team squad. And it makes me think, is it even necessary to have such a massive network of youth to turn to, where realistically maybe 1 to 2 max could actually make it in your first team? Now maybe that's the whole point of this recruitment. Maybe from a monetary point of view, it's a worthwhile investment, because if 1 or 2 guys come back in your squad, it covers everything. Fair enough, but I've always thought maybe morally, is it that fair to be hedging your bets on youth talents where their potential is still a bit uncapped? It's not finalized right now. If they had successes at clubs that actually wanted them and they weren't priced out of moves there, their careers could be in a better place, right? I guess it's something to think about, but you can imagine once Casadei does leave in January, expect more talents to be going as well. And I guess maybe that's the whole point of things. So yeah, share your thoughts and opinions on this. How do you feel about this youth recruitment model? We move on and we discuss some interesting news surrounding Christo and Nkunku. Now, in my previous videos in January, I have mentioned the fact that the club ideally would like to keep Christo here, but Christo's future is in Christo's hands, and if the right offer does come in January that entices him, the club won't stop him from leaving. And I guess that makes a bit of sense, because as we're seeing currently, we're seeing a bit of a reluctance from Maresca to turn towards using these 10-style players in the team, outside of giving them cup minutes and Conference League apps. Now, rumours today come out from journalist Graham Bailey, and he suggests that Atletico Madrid and Bayern Munich are expressing light interest around the player currently. As we know, we can't keep a player that isn't happy here. And to be honest, I can completely sympathize with Christo not being impressed here, because it's so crazy that after being hit with injuries last season outside his control, because it was a contact injury, not a hamstring one, fast forward 12 months and already there seems to be no real position for him in the team, when 12 months prior, this guy was the first marquee signing under our new directors. And I guess there's always going to be this conversation around our recruitment sometimes. Some of us now feel like a more focused approach is the best way forward, right? To try and avoid these situations where you're wasting so much time enticing these guys to sign for you to begin with, being out all this competition, and then 12 months later, the plans switch up again, and now you just find out now that this guy isn't even really needed, which is absolutely mad to me. Right now, Christo isn't desperate to leave. It makes sense because there's no concrete offers just yet for him. And to be honest with you, I'm looking at Atletico Madrid. He'd have big competition alongside Griezmann, Sorloth, Alvarez. I mean, it could work, of course, because Simeone likes to rotate, but I can't imagine Atleti being willing to spend that amount of money in his wages for another competition player. And Bayern Munich, I think their priority in January is to get their star players now to sign contract extensions. I don't think they're prioritizing any other additional recruitment. I mean, they recently just tried to gas Matisse Tell, listen, stay here, we believe in you. So I'm very surprised by these links, but I'm not surprised by the fact that Christo could leave. But I'm looking at the market, I'm looking at most teams, and I don't really see many clubs outside of potential loan moves. Let's see what happens, that necessarily needs him right now. But let's watch this space, and to be honest, it's a bit of a disappointment that maybe Christo is really underutilized this season. I think he's definitely our best finisher, but I think the main frustration I see from Christo actually is the fact that I just don't think the team necessarily understand him or his movements. Every time I watch him, I feel like great runs and moves, they're not being picked up on by his teammate. I actually think this guy is a world-class football player. So yeah, I don't understand what's happening right now. But again, we've approached the second half of the season. Anything can happen. Let's watch the space. So you guys share your opinions on this story. So now, let's tackle one of the big breaking stories this afternoon as we discuss centre-back possibilities in January. Because as I said in my last video, we are still currently exploring the possibility of making additional defensive recruitment. Today, this was confirmed by Fabrizio Romano, who's like a real mouthpiece of the football club right now. And he reports that currently, Marc Guehi is someone that really interests us. And we are having internal conversations around him as he only has 18 months left on his contract. And more talks are resurfacing around recalling Chalobah. Now, reports mentioned last week that there was no recall option. That seems to be a bit of a myth right now. Glasner didn't really give any confirmation towards that, and it seemed to be of the opposite belief. And now it has been confirmed finally that there is a recall option inserted in the deal, and Chalobah would be open to coming back here. Why? Because he's a boyhood fan. He's been at this club since he was a kid. He always wants to make it here, but naturally he's professional. His priority is still on Crystal Palace, and that makes sense until something materializes. So there's a lot to unpack here. I'm going to be spending quite a bit of time breaking down everything right now, but let's start off by focusing on Chalobah. Now, I think immediately, and let's keep things fair, it is a bit outrageous that after ostracizing him during the summer, especially when he played a key part near the end of last season and helping us secure positions we got to and improve our form, that he is now someone we could look to rejoin the squad. And maybe this is where my criticisms can come with the directors. And listen, when I say criticisms, it's not hate. Hopefully you guys have heard me say positive things and negative things. Nothing's perfect, right? We can discuss all angles. That's how I like to move. But, you know, sometimes the lack of foresight can be a bit annoying. And I've always felt like there seems to be this big disrespect around most club-produced talents, as if, you know, it's not good enough. And it's kind of bothered me, because I always felt like there was a possibility for this new direction at this football club to embrace the positive aspects of what they've just bought whilst enhancing it, right? Since then, as we know, they're trying to restructure Cobham right now. I mean, let's see if that brings the same success and results. But going back to Chalobah, I just think it's a bit outrageous that he was ostracized in this manner when it was just abundantly clear. I was saying this throughout the summer periods. He makes sense in a Maresca system, for God's sake. I mean, have we all forgotten what he did under Thomas Tuchel, playing as a wide centre-back down that right side? The underlaps, the overlaps, his ability past the halfway line, his flipping goal threat as well. There was a time back in football, and I'm going to use Sir Alex Ferguson as an example. In this Man United squad, that had great world-class talents. They also had your West Browns, your O'Shea's, you know, your Hargreaves, Bentleys, etc., etc. You know, squad players that kind of understood their positions and roles, but always gave you 10 out of 10 every time they had an opportunity. You know, in football, you can't have a squad of 25 excellent players fighting for positions. It doesn't work like that. All the best squads that win have had a hierarchy of order. And I just felt like Chalobah understood this. And I just felt like he was always someone that was very reliable, very commendable. And the fact that we've signed many players that aren't better than him, in your Badias, the Sassis, even Toysons, it's always really just bothered me that we've gone down this route. And I think it's incredibly ironic right now that we're seriously exploring the possibility of re-signing him. But it's also kind of weird too, because we've just recalled Anselmino. Obviously, Chimpong's just shown recently that this guy is a super talent, and maybe you should be giving him more minutes right now. And I have to say, on top of that too, Wesley Fofana has confirmed that he won't be out until the season ends. He's set to be out for the next 4 to 6 weeks, but to give grace to those reports, I think at the time it was believed that Fofana was set to go under the knife and get surgery for his hamstring. But obviously, if that had happened, naturally he needs more time to recover. But players are trying to actively avoid being under the knife for these very reasons. Alongside that, Badia returns next month. And as I've just said, Chimpong has been given his first team debut. Anselmino has been recalled. Reece James and Gusto are fit now. And we have options at fullback to play in defence. I just don't really feel like a centre-back is really needed now. Unless we are planning on selling some players or loaning players. Obviously, with Anselmino returning, there's still a possibility he gets loaned out straight to Strasbourg or elsewhere. Let's watch this space. Obviously, Disasi has been picking up a lot of interest. There's possibilities that he could be moved on. Tosin Adarabioyo, he's been linked with other Prem clubs already. We signed him on a free. Would we say no to pure profit from a Tosin sell if that came through now? Probably not. But it's just crazy to me that someone that literally suits the foundations of Maresca's ideas and systems out from the back, someone like Chalobah, flexible across many positions defensively in DM, across the back line. You know, he was ostracized for what reason? Only for us to now turn back to him. I think it's just, I don't know. If there's one improvement I need to see in recruitment, the foresight has to be a bit better, and it can't just be, you know, wheeling and dealing all the time. It's a bit frustrating. So how do you guys feel about Chalobah possibly coming back? Let us know. Obviously, the topic is not over, because we have to discuss these Marc Guehi reports. As we've known for a while, he's approaching the end of his contract now at Crystal Palace. He has 18 months left. And naturally, for someone who's an England international and a top-class Premier League defender who's linked with Liverpool, Arsenal's, Newcastle made a 65 to 70 million move for him last summer, which Guehi himself turned down. This guy is a big talent, and I have to say, I have to talk my stuff right now, boys, but once upon a time when we signed Wesley Fofana, I got a bit of stick for feeling that Guehi was just as good or even better. And it's just like, why are we splashing extra money for someone who's still quite raw in many aspects? And listen, I rate Fofana, he's good. Hopefully he comes back. But, you know, there was a time I'm getting all these Cobham sexual accusations as if I'm backing like some obscure player from the academy. And not talents like Livramento, Lewis Hall, Gallagher, Guehi, you know, talents are actually doing something in the game right now. So I have to say I feel a little bit vindicated because I think Marc Guehi, listen, the first time I saw this guy play for us in the Carabao Cup against Man United, instantly I was like, wow, this guy is a football player. And he's proven it ever since. I mean, equally good with both feet. Line breakers, stupidly composed on the ball, can play across defensive positions, can defend wide in the books, head the ball as well. And listen, if you could sign someone like this, who has 18 months left for a bargain fee, I think knowing the fact that I think we also have certain clauses in the Guehi deal, which would allow us to even sign him for less money, it's a no-brainer in my opinion. However, doesn't make sense for this month. Unless we're planning to do some ridiculous reshuffling at the back, which seems a bit inconsequential considering our main issues are finishing and holding out the lead. I just don't think a move for Guehi now makes sense. If anything, you put the groundwork in right now to get ready for an approach in the summer. Because realistically, club, you're not going to be getting big money for Khans for 40 million and stuff, but I think next summer there's possibilities to do a bit of wheeling and dealing in those areas. And I think Guehi could make more sense if you're planning to maybe reshuffle with guys like, I don't know, Disasi and Baddies and co leaving. So let's watch this space, but that is all the news currently surrounding potential exits and recruitment as well. So how do you guys feel about the stories? Share your thoughts and opinions, let us know. And on that note, I'm Nini FC, this is Blue Lions TV. See you guys all soon. I'll let you guys know the next video I'm releasing, probably tomorrow, is going to be on 5 striker options we should turn to in January, because I actually think a striker now is really important for the squad and for our season hopes. So yeah, come back tomorrow. See you all soon.